Japan dared to conduct close-in reconnaissance against a Chinese aircraft carrier. This is simply reckless beyond belief. Being locked by our J-15T's fire control radar serves them right. Once locked, Japan's fighter had no way to shake off the radar tracking, meaning that if China fired a missile, the Japanese jet would be finished. In this exchange, the outcome was already decided. Recently, tensions flared again over the Western Pacific. Japan tried to test China's reaction, only to be slapped hard by the PLA. On December 6th, the Chinese Navy's Liaoning aircraft carrier group sailed through the Miyako Strait into the Western Pacific to conduct long-range routine training and annual, fully lawful deployment consistent with UNCLOS and international norms. Yet the Japanese Air Self-Defense Force JSDF scrambled F-15J fighters multiple times for close-in reconnaissance, attempting to probe Chinese tactics and formation data. In response, China's J-15 carrier-based fighters decisively activated fire control radar illumination, conducting intermittent tracking lock-ons throughout the day. Japan's Ministry of Defense immediately called a press conference, denouncing the move as extremely dangerous. Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi expressed deep regret and threatened a firm response. But anyone with common sense knows, this is not China provoking, but China countering a provocation. Not adventurism, but legitimate self-defense. When foreign aircraft intrude into APLA carrier group's alert zone, China has every right to lock, warn, and expel. No tolerance for hostile intrusion. Japan's media hyped the fire control lock-on, attempting to conceal its long-term pattern of close reconnaissance and intelligence probing. Yet what deserves far more attention is this. Multiple intelligence sources confirm China simultaneously mobilized nearly 100 naval and coast guard vessels across the East China Sea and Western Pacific, an unprecedented display of maritime power in recent years. Japan's political panic only exposes its strategic misjudgment and capability gap. I have previously analyzed that Japan has shifted from cautious engagement to active provocation against China. Behind this are three dangerous ambitions: leveraging Taiwan tensions to bind the US, reviving militarism under the banner of counter-strike capability, forming multilateral anti-China blocs. But no matter how cunning its calculations, the moment Japan chooses military adventurism against China, the end is predetermined: crushing retaliation and eventual reckoning by the PLA. Let's examine the issue from three angles. First, the power balance has reversed. Japan's fantasy of air superiority is long dead. Why did Japan's F-15J dare approach the Chinese carrier group? Because Japan still imagines itself as the East Asian air supremacy power of the 1980s. Reality: most F-15Js are over 30 years old. More than 60% can't perform high-intensity missions due to structural fatigue. China's J-15T fighters are newly upgraded with improved avionics, new radar systems, and support from Type 055 destroyers, KJ-600AO aircraft, and space-based ISR networks, forming a complete carrier combat ecosystem. The J-15's PLA-15 missiles exceed 200 kilometers range. Once radar locks, it can fire within seconds, far faster than Japan's fighters. Geographically, Japan's F-15Js from Naha have extremely limited endurance. Facing the Liaoning only 120 kilometers away, they are in a fire and flee disadvantage. In real combat, they might not even have fuel left to return. Naval power is even more lopsided. China, more than 400 naval vessels including 3 carriers, 60 submarines. Japan, less than 150 vessels and no real aircraft carrier. Even the approximately 100 vessels China recently mobilized in the Western Pacific outmatch Japan's entire navy. Japan's monitoring is essentially walking into a beating. Its protests are nothing more than diplomatic theatrics. The PLA's message to Japan is clear: do not gamble with China. Do not interfere in China's internal affairs. Japan cannot afford the consequences. Second, Japan's strategic misjudgment, dangerous overconfidence, and blind faith in the US-Japan alliance. Japan's provocations stem from two illusions. The US will fight China on Japan's behalf. Japan can revive militarism under American protection, but this is detached from reality. By Q3 2025, the US faces severe defense budget strain. Pentagon assessments openly warn that confronting China and Russia simultaneously will overstretch US forces. U.S. bases in Japan, especially Okinawa, are quietly drawing down deployments. Washington's plan is obvious: turn Japan into an East Asian Ukraine, pushing it toward confrontation with China while America sits back and benefits. But Japan forgets. China is not Russia, and Japan is definitely not Ukraine. Ukraine has 1.6 Japan's land area, 1,300 kilometers strategic depth. Japan, a long, narrow island only a few hundred km from China. 90% of energy relies on maritime imports. Manufacturing clustered along the vulnerable Seto Inland Sea. If war breaks out, Japan's supply lines collapse instantly. China, meanwhile, has the world's most complete industrial chain, strong anti-access, area denial systems, and 1.4 billion people determined to defend core interests. If Japan dares intervene in Taiwan, block and strike forward bases across the Nansei Islands, block the Tsushima Strait and Tsugaru Strait, cut off Japan's energy lifelines. This is not a threat, it is an operational reality. Japan would not receive assistance. Japan would become the battlefield. And China would not be alone. Russia and North Korea would also seize the chance. Japan is walking into a dead end. Third, play with fire, get burned. China's four-dimensional counter-strategy has locked onto Japan's weaknesses. China's response integrates political, economic, military, and legal pressure, each hitting Japan's vital points. Politically, China deliberately withheld congratulations to Takaichi upon her election and used UNESCO channels to reintroduce the Ryukyu indigenous cultural debate, challenging Japan's weak sovereignty narrative. Economically, travel advisories have caused over 60% cancellations. A drop of 8 million Chinese tourists would cut Japan's GDP by 0.4%. More critically, rare earths. China supplies over 90% of global heavy rare earths. Restricting dysprosium and terbium would instantly cripple Toyota hybrids and Sony image sensor lines. Militarily, the Liaoning advanced south of the Miyako Strait. Type 55 destroyers and Type 75 assault ships formed a north-south pincer. High-intensity plot drills stretch from the Yellow Sea to the Western Pacific. Eastern Theater Air Force patrols the East China ADIZ. DF-226 missiles remain on standby. Legally, Chinese scholars re-examine the Cairo Declaration and Potsdam Proclamation to reinforce China's status as a victorious power, a foundation for future historical accountability if necessary. If Takaichi continues visiting Yasukuni, rewriting the constitution, and cooperating with the US on Taiwan, China-Japan relations may collapse entirely. Under China's anti-secession law, Article 8, foreign military intervention in Taiwan constitutes armed interference in China's internal affairs, meaning counterstrikes may target all of Japan. Japan surrendered unconditionally in 1945. Yet by 2025 it imagines gambling its national fate again under U.S. encouragement. But today's China is not the China of old. China possesses 3 aircraft carriers, hundreds of J-20 and J-35 stealth fighters, hypersonic DF series missiles, and the world's largest industrial base backed by 1.4 billion unified citizens. If Japan insists on this reckless path, it will face a crisis of true national survival, a crisis it created itself. Japan still thinks US backing allows it to challenge China's core interests. Wake up, the era has changed. Whoever points weapons at China will learn what great power strength truly means. Whoever offends China, no matter how far, will be punished. Play with fire, and you will burn. Provoke China, and you will be countered. Today's China is not to be trifled with.